Here we have a really interesting grouping of Mount Shasta Volcanic Glass, Paleo Story Stone Face, and Mammoth effigies. This was part of the Lady Nellie cache, and this particular offering was offered by probably one particular Paleo Indian that had flaked these rather crudely, I might say. They're all done with percussion and pressure flaking, but not quite as refined as some of the others. So this napper was not quite as sophisticated as some of the other nappers from Mount Shasta. This was obviously left as a Paleolithic offering depicting faces, human faces, and mammoths, Paleo Story Stones. And as we know, some of these Paleo Story Stones were made from artifacts that resemble Paleo preforms. We also know they made them at Mount Shasta from what we would call a Clovis biface, made out of this volcanic glass that was made for and as a Paleo Story Stone effigy, and not to be used to finish a knife or a point or anything of that nature. Now, these are in the shape of what you might find here in the Mojave Desert here in California, for example, along the shoreline of Pleistocene Lake Mannix. For example, this one here resembles a bit of a Lake Mojave type point. It's beautifully pressure flaked all along that ridge to form the back of the mammoth. So we have a beautiful mammoth now facing left with its trunk right here, pointed trunk right there. When we turn it this way, now we have that mammoth facing right. And when we go turn it upside down, now we have a mature mammoth facing right, and a mature mammoth now facing left. We also have faces here. This side here has been very wonderfully carved and flaked, and some of the human faces are part of this effigy. They're not quite as distinct in this particular piece, as these were really crudely done. I mean, the napper here was not one of the tribe's best nappers, as we've seen with some of the Clovis biface effigies. Here we have a leaf-shaped artifact. Now, that's a typical leaf-shaped knife or preform that we would find along Pleistocene Lake Mannix or out in the Mojave Desert. It's leaf-shaped, and it's got a flute pretty much up the middle. That's the striking platform right there. And they struck that. Those are ripples. Those are flaking ripples. Those aren't etching or engraving. And that rippled right up to a leaf-shaped paleo artifact, but it's actually a mammoth effigy with the mammoth now facing right. Now the mammoth is facing left. This mammoth is now facing right, and this mammoth now is facing left. The faces are kind of interesting. All they needed to do was peck that out there and then take that flake for the mouth. So we have the older face, the eye, nose, and open mouth facing off to the left. And then this eye again, nose over here, and mouth again flaked out of the younger face facing off to the right. You can see that that stone is extremely weathered. All of these are. All 6 of these are extremely weathered, obviously found on or near the surface. And you can tell there's no modern damage at all or any type of workmanship that's been done in the recent time, because here's a Libyan desert glass paleo biface effigy. That is a flaking scar right there. It's windblown. It's old. There's another flaking scar right here. That's a flaking scar there. But this one here is modern. We can see here that we have the ancient flaking scar and the modern. Look how it shines when it's modern compared to the wind-blown flaking scar that's wind-blown and patinated. So any modern workmanship on a natural glass, nature-made glass item, any modern work is going to be easily identified, and none of these have any modern work at all. So we have another mammoth now in this example, which is facing right, large hair tuft above the head, big trunk coming down to the right. We can also put it this way. Now we have a baby mammoth with its little trunk over here off to the left. This one is nicely engraved too. Got some etching on it. There's some etching right there. You can see the etching right there. And it's very windblown and heavily weathered. These have been washed. There's a mammoth now facing left. See the tapered back. Here's another mammoth facing left. Now we have a mammoth facing right. We have a face with a big exaggerated eye and nose and a mouth facing right. And again, heavily patinated, heavily weathered, all out of this same beautiful volcanic glass. Lots of little bubbles in this volcanic glass, and lots of natural glass has bubbles. Libyan desert glass has bubbles, moldavite has bubbles, on and on and on. So it's not unusual for nature-made glass to have bubbles. Here we go. Now we have a mammoth trunk off to the right. A really nice mammoth image now facing left. And this has some pretty good engraving for faces and things. Here's the hair that's been engraved up there. That's really been grooved into that glass. That's some heavy-duty grooving in there. And that's not flaking ripple like we've seen in the leaf-shaped blade. That's etching, grooving. And then we have faces here. The eye has been pecked out, nose and mouth, the hairdo up above the head. And look at the patina and the wear on this. Then we have another mammoth here, and that's facing right with its trunk off to the right. And now we have that another mammoth facing left. Just a very interesting grouping of Paleo Story Stone face and mammoth effigies that come from Mount Shasta, California, part of the Lady Nellie cache discovered in the late 60s on her property at Mount Shasta, California.